Hey, it's Soul with a hopefully quick video. The end of World of Warcraft Legion is coming pretty soon. And by that, I mean in the coming weeks or months, we're going to get a new expansion announcement and all eyes will be directed there. Well, most eyes, okay? So even though it's too late, I want to take some of the wins and losses and lessons learned from Legion and compile a short and probably incomplete list of things that I would love to see in a future expansion, or the next expansion. So let's get right to it. Give me more world scaling, and even better, expand on it. I like being able to move from zone to zone as I pleased. There were different quest lines that I had to tackle, including profession stuff, order hall stuff, and even unlocking artifact weapons later on in the leveling process, and it flowed really well. It didn't feel awkward for me to go into a dungeon late, and there are some good benefits into going into dungeons early. Queue times were short because the level range was literally 100 to 110. So I really want to see more of this, both in whatever new expansion areas there are, as well as maybe the entire old world, or maybe at least certain parts of it. There are tons of different ideas on how you can possibly implement it, and I had one idea where you can kind of make it a weekly event. But I think of the many experiments that Blizzard conducts, this one definitely worked. I want to see more of it. The world quest system is awesome, and I definitely want to see that come into the next expansion. It's awesome that I have a flow of stuff to do, and even better with the random and scaling rewards I can choose to do or not do them. At the same time, the more structured flow of dailies is something that I miss too, and I want to see that come back in a very story-driven form. My initial impression of World Quest back in the Legion Alpha and Beta was that the selection of quests would change drastically depending on our rep level. On top of that, every time we would go from one rep level to another, there'd be a cool little quest line to underline the fruits of our efforts. Unfortunately, while there were limited changes in the world quests that were available depending on our rep, I don't think it delivered very well regarding our factions and how important they feel to us. Anyway, I think what I'm just trying to say is that I want both systems to come back and work together. Use world quests to give us plenty of tasks to do, and use dailies to help drive the narrative and story. Overall, I'm very happy with how Mythic Dungeons turned out in Legion. I think this, just like World Quest, did a lot to increase the longevity of certain content. I obviously expect to see more dungeons, but I also hope to see more fixes, new ways to screw us over, and also a more thriving dungeon community. I'm curious to see how the system will play out if Titan Forging won't be a thing in the next expansion. How's the weekly chest going to play out, or will there still be one? Everyone's got their opinion on Flight, and to be honest, I've been back and forth. I was pro-Flight, I was anti-Flight. These days, I'm in the mindset of if we're gonna have Flight and Pathfinder or what have you, give us something on top of it. I know I've been a broken record on this topic, so I'll just keep this short. I want Flight-based content. I think of previous expansions that had this kind of immersion like Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, Mists of Pandaria, and I liked it, it worked. Blizzard can Pathfinder the fuck out of the next expansion. Just give me something brand new and fresh after I earn it. Here's something new that I literally just thought of, so bear with me. I want something like a solo dungeon, but maybe not. So hear me out. Imagine those kinds of dungeon crawls where you go from level to level. Every time you get to like the 5th level, there's something, there's like a really hard challenge, and once you beat that, then you get to a floor where you can kind of take a break of sorts. Think of it as a checkpoint, and that's a thing you can kind of fast travel to. Well, let's pretend that this thing has like 100 floors, a whole bunch of bad guys, and it's up to you and your party, whether this is a solo or a group thing, to get to the bottom. I'm not going to talk any details because again, I literally just thought of this during this recording. But straight up, I'd just like to see a dungeon crawl that's just about exploration and trying to survive with limited resources. I want to finally see dynamic events happen in WoW. So when I think of a dynamic event, I think of something along the lines of Legion Assaults and World Quest and phasing and other things like that can just kind of get smashed together and become a very small, centralized sort of scenario-like thing. It's a system that we've seen in other MMOs where there's a beacon that appears and you go to it, and then all of a sudden you're kind of party with a random group of strangers who also happen to be in the area. Complete the objectives and ta-da, you're done. I suspect with these new systems that we've been seeing in the past several expansions that this is something that we will most definitely see in the near future. Going back to the whole Legion Assault objective, it could be as easy as a town or a quest hub all of a sudden under attack by something dangerous. The immediate area changes while the rest of the zone is functional. Players who gather use the backbone of the group finder, or what would basically be kind of the World Quest group finder system, hook up for some fighting, complete some objectives, and get a reward. Now, like I said, I didn't want to talk about story, but story is important. It drives a lot of the systems that you eventually see in an expansion or heck any other game. But I just want a more simple story that doesn't have to do with the old gods or the void lords or the end of the universe. It doesn't have to be that way, but we can still have the sense of urgency of just dying dying or trying to survive. A story like that will have a strong influence. It's going to nullify certain things like the prominence of our characters, the need for an order hall or a garrison because we don't have that sort of rank and standing. So if there is a future garrison or order hall, I want it to be more like a clubhouse or a refuge. In the garrison we had followers, in the order hall we had champions, but in this garrison 3.0 I would just want like comrades, people that we treat as equals, and the narrative writes it that way. I'd love to have a limited form of guild or player housing, something that's just cosmetic, a place that I can visit and decorate, and that's it. I don't want to be tucked away in some instanced area, and Legion's order hall system did a good job of doing that. I want to see that in any system that has that sort of involvement. Just keep it simple and compel me to not stick around there for that long. Over the years we've seen more and more gear drop for the purpose of swapping things out for stats or just being able to upgrade things a lot faster. It's hard to say whether I like it or not, but it feels like I don't hold any emotional value to the gear that I get, knowing that I can easily get a Titan Forged something or other that could easily surpass it just a moment later. I want to be able to care about my gear more. I want to see a system sort of like the Bloodroom Forge that lets me invest a little bit more into the gear that I get, instead of farming for drop after drop. Apart from a bug or two, Black Temple Timewalking worked. I want to see a lot more of these in the future. I'd also like to see Timewalking based on the remixed dungeons that we've seen from classic WoW. Skull of Mance, Scarlet Cathedral, Sunken Temple, Shadowfang Keep, Upper Blackrock Spire, and whatever I forgot to mention. I want more Transvaal, tons and tons more Transvaal. In fact, I don't even care if it's the cash shop. To be honest, that'll just motivate me to work the auction house even harder, which after some inflation and griping will ultimately lead to a healthier market. What would be even better is if this Transvaal was linked primarily to professions. I think armor crafting professions tend to get a bad rap. I disagree with them, but I can understand some players not seeing crafted gear as very attractive at all because it's not very powerful, you can always get better upgrades, and so on. But I say from a gold making standpoint, being able to make crafted transmog will go a long way to making these professions a lot more profitable. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today because I wanted you folks to also share what's your wish list for the next expansion and beyond that. Share your thoughts, support me the best way you know how, and stay breezy.